Well, we are doing our stream a little bit later than I had planned. Someone who generally leaves around, I'd say 8 or 9 o'clock, ended up sleeping in. So they didn't leave until shortly before I started. And then right as I was about to start, somebody else called me to say, move this thing inside. And it was just a whole cavalcade of different activities and delays and whatnot. But we can finally sit down and talk and speak and just have a conversation about whatever given topic I may decide to discuss. I mentioned before I called my Secretary of State's office and it was a complete circus. The people there really seem to just want to transfer you to 5 or 6 different numbers. And eventually they kept transferring me to this number that would disconnect me while I was waiting for it. So I'll see about calling the local Secretary of State, the one that's like in my city, in between now and Friday. I did not expect the trash guy to come so early. I've seen trash people not show up until like 1, 2, 3 o'clock. This one came before like 10 or 9. I'm not necessarily complaining about that. It's just surprising. But yeah, I only have 2 objectives for today. After the stream, I've got this interview that's at 1, and I might, we'll see what comes out of that. But I already know, you generally speaking, how those things tend to go. And after that, the only other thing is just going and getting some stuff from the market because I usually go twice a week, and the second time is just to like get heavier stuff that I wouldn't have been able to, or didn't feel like taking in all the first time just because how much it is. It's nice to have one day where I know I'm not going to have to spend that much of it driving because I think I'll probably, after finishing the stream, just go and write some stuff because it's been a while since I've just been able to like sit down and just write, just type this, type that. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But I don't know. I just have developed with a lot of this stuff a sort of internalized pessimism where you try to look at things from perspective. Okay, if I just do this, I can get this. Like I think when I call this place up, what do you do when you call places up? Usually, you ask a question, they answer it. Instead, you get this really insane, just series of transfers that ultimately goes nowhere, and it's very sad because um people who've kind of like just like, both on my stream and in real life who've like heard about what happened with that place have theorized that they did that on purpose to just like get me out of their hair. Like, oh, we don't want to talk to this person who's actually trying to get us to do our job. I really don't like being that cynical about um the people who work in these places because if they are that ridiculous, then like what hope is there for, you know, any of these other places? Like if a government run agencies people are so lazy that they don't even want to answer basic questions about stuff, then you know we're in for a problem as a society. But I really tried to just say, okay, maybe they have again all these different divisions and they don't know the numbers acting up. I don't know. It just seemed harder than it should be. But I've said for a lot of stuff is harder than it should be. Like it's got this built-in expectation on your part of how difficult it should be, or whether you think of how it's going to go. And then after actually participating and trying to get it or to otherwise receive it, you get screwed. So I would say, oh, the person wants a job, they just apply to a few places, going for some interviews, whatever, and they can have a job. And then you find out you have to apply here, apply there, attend this, fill all these forms before you even get the damn job. And in some cases, fill them out even without getting the job, as we saw 2 weeks ago. That Monday where they had me sit up there and fill all that stuff out just to give me radio silence for 2 days before finally saying they're not interested, which begs the question of why even have someone fill out all that stuff. So just really weird. Okay, that's just weird. Um, But you get my point that I'm like slowly realizing anything you think is simple, just be prepared for like an avalanche of insanity. Because like I fully admit running for office is not the easiest thing, especially well, I think it depends on what type of like office you're running for. Because some races have millions of people that are voting. Some races have like 100,000, which would be the case for my if I ran it for the House, for example. But it's just so sad that like you would think the simplest part would be asking, questions relating to, is this legal? Is this something I can do? Is this something just basic questions about the process. You can't get it answered by and I spoke to 3 employees up there. That's how crazy is that? So I said a lot of these places just they baffle me with how they can turn the simplest of stuff into just a really extreme exercise in futility and time wasting and all the rest of it. Like I really sat in that hot car trying to get trying to speak to somebody just that that could like answer again my very basic questions about, so when you run for this, what do you need? What kind of paperwork, etc. Are you allowed to campaign over here? Just stuff like that. And I couldn't get one person to actually go through the stuff with me. And I thought that was crazy. But I probably won't call them back today because I've got someone who's coming back over here in like 2 hours. Well, they're apparently leaving from where they are at 12:30, so they'll probably be here at like 1 o'clock. And I don't want to um like they just don't need to be privy to that conversation. So I'll probably call the local Secretary of State tomorrow or at some point between tomorrow and Friday. Yeah, I've very rarely been as disappointed as I was this past Thursday. Just a really upsetting thing. I don't know. I just never will understand how certain people have jobs. Like I couldn't imagine having a job where every time somebody calls, let me transfer you this person, let me transfer that person. But we were talking about that one buffoon that I lived with, and that was their position where they would just sit on the phone talking to their friends all day, and then somebody would call every like 40, 50 minutes, maybe every 2 hours, and they do their little pep speech, thank you for calling, and then they say the place's name, and just their little generic line that they have of reading people, right? Most fake rehearsed thing you've ever seen. And after doing that, they would listen to the person who's asking them a question for maybe like 30 seconds, a minute. They go, oh, let me transfer you this person. Let me transfer that person. I heard that so much. So a lot of these jobs really are just people sitting on the phone, transferring people to, all these other departments or specialists, right? Um, while they sit and type on the computer or talk to their friends. Because the person who acted the nastiest towards me when I called up the Secretary of State's office, they said they work remote, so they work from home, which means that I'm just imagining like you call them and like as they're talking to one of their friends, and then you call them back and they just roll their eyes like, oh my god, why would this person just go away? Because like I said, a lot of these employees, they don't really seem as if they're trying to be friendly and or helpful. It's just really nasty, aggressive, BS. Am I gonna do a separate video about Tucker? I don't know. I guess I could say I was really surprised that they got rid of him. It seemed to have come out of completely nowhere. I can't imagine the reasons for it at all, but I mean, hey, a lot of people are getting fired nowadays. But this did take me by surprise. He'll probably get picked up by some other stupid network. Is the one thing I know about all these different TV hosts is that usually if they get fired from somewhere or gotten rid of, you can expect to see them appear somewhere else. I remember when O'Reilly was gotten rid of during the basically the preamble of the Me Too stuff. He I thought he was like, done. And sure enough, you go on YouTube and you can find him posting clips and videos about the current events of today. I know he misses his Fox salary. Yeah, these people always find a way to bounce back. Like they never just actually go away. Like, oh, you fired this person. Goodbye. I remember there was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, there was an effort to try to get rid of Tucker by boycotting his advertisers. And I think it was Kalinsky who was like, you know, if you get rid of him, they're not going to replace him with Noam Chomsky, which was really funny because he's basically saying, what's the point of getting rid of someone if their supposed replacement is no better? Which I agree with. What is the point? Yeah, him being thrown out was probably the most shocking news I've heard all week. Just really surprising. But like I said, you never really know what happens with these network executives and the people that are like running the curtains. Because I remember when it came out that he had those text messages where he was talking trash about Trump. There were a lot of people who said that he was fake. He was just playing it up for the camera, and the messages really did prove that was the case. I mean, you saw on TV and praise somebody, and then when you're texting about them, he is so despicable. I can't stand it. Just that type of stuff where it's like two faced. But it's just so sad that these people with these extremely large salaries, um, who have every like, I guess what I'm getting at is I talked before about how unstable YouTube is, where you can have a video that can get 1,000 views in one day, and the next one can get maybe like 80, 70, 90. Like it's just really unstable. And that kind of instability can cause someone who maybe doesn't believe everything they say to start producing content that would otherwise, it's like outrage stuff where like, oh, this person said this, let me click it, that type of thing, where like because of how unstable the site is, they're encouraged to act in a way that is reactionary, that's like trying to get people to click on stuff that they otherwise would not have cared about, but they're doing it to get views. In the case of Fox, it's like I get they do things to get ratings, but they get paid way more than anything I'll ever make off of here. So the idea that they can't even have the basic integrity to say, look, I don't like this person, you like him, whatever, if someone does something wrong, I'll admit it. It's just sad that like even a basic showing of integrity like that is just too much for them. It's really, really pathetic. I'm not even surprised though. It's just every now and then you think people have, some kind of basic uh, spine, and like no, they don't. They go with that whichever way the wind blows. That's why a lot of guys were so afraid to criticize chicks, because it's they do that red scare thing. Oh, if you say something about the women, they will not like you. It's like, but they already didn't. It's like, so what difference did it make? None whatsoever. They really do run like a romance red scare where if you wear this or say that or whatever, oh, they will not like you. It's like, yeah, they already don't. People in here are so goofy. I actually had another one of these, well, not of the same exact cloth, but one of these like weird guys come and write a comment yesterday. Uh and I was just thinking like, isn't it sad that he apparently I just maybe I'm crazy, but when I leave comments on people's stuff, it's usually after I've seen the whole video. And I respond to something they say if I agree with it, don't agree with it, whatever. And I just think it's so sad that like in the political realm, there are people who will respond to a title and just completely ignore anything that's being said by the person. Like just you could say, um, like you can make a video where you praise somebody, right? And then in the title, it's like, I don't like this person. It could be like an April Fool's joke, and they'll be like, this person doesn't need you to like, just completely proving that they didn't even watch the video that they're attempting to comment on. And then he threw in some, nasty comments about my attire because that's what men online do. They love obsessing over the appearance of other men. That's their favorite hobby. It never stops. Like I said, I don't even have a problem with disagreements, but if it all just comes down to let me talk trash about a title and someone's appearance, I don't know. I just I could care less about actually listening to them. Um, because I do think there are legitimate, genuine dialogues that can come out of people who don't agree with each other speaking. But if it's just going to be the other crap, then forget it. What is this? Sorry, that was a call from someone. It's so weird that people have all these damn cameras in front of their houses, like, and it's not even just having cameras. They have motion activated cameras, cameras where like if you walk in front of their house, they record you, or they tell the person, hey, there's somebody by your door or whatever. And it's crazy how, in spite of having these cameras that are right, like right in front of their house, that are activated by you simply stepping in a certain area or place or direction, whatever. They these people like still feel the need to call and ask you, "Did you do this?" Like you can go and you can turn the camera on and see that it's not there anymore. So as I said, technology has advanced a lot, even in like just the last 20 years. Like if you look at the internet of 2000 to today, you would think it's been a whole damn uh, you know, several generations, but just the way people act and their inability to actually use it to its fullest purpose, I do think makes it crappy. Because I said before that like I was sympathetic to the idea of ignorant, and when I say ignorant, I'm talking about people who just like don't know basic stuff about, let's say, history or whatever. Just people who were not that well versed in things that happened before them, whatever. I was sympathetic toward people like that from, let's say, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, because a lot of in those eras, if you wanted to learn something, for the most part, you'd have to go and read a book. Maybe you can go to the library. It wasn't as easy as you just type in the person's name on Google and then here's a whole biography of them. And I guess what I'm getting at is because people of today have access to the internet, anyone who doesn't know something is a lot less inclined for me to be as sympathetic toward them, just because it's in my view so much easier to know it than it would have been, again, 50, 40, 30 years ago. My favorite part is when the guy said, "Who is this?" And then he like insulted me, like basically saying like who, like I'm a nobody. He's like the guy who's saying this, um I mean, he has no larger of a channel than I do, so I don't know what leg he has to stand on from that aspect. I already said before, fame is an extremely relative and subjective thing. And we've talked about this before that you have people on YouTube who have 100,000 subs you've never even heard of. There are people on YouTube with 1,000,000 subs that you go down the street, you ask somebody, "Hey, what do you think of this person?" Who? Um, there are people with 1,000,000,000 views again, you could go to random people and they've never heard of them. Trust me, I've gone into political circle, not like non-political circles, like just people who watch. It could be sports, it could be just any form of entertainment, right? Just like general entertainment related stuff. They just don't follow politics whatsoever. I go up to one of them and I ask them, "What do you think of Ben Shapiro?" They're gonna be like, "What?" I've had that happen, and that person's way bigger than I am, and people still know who he is. Same thing with Jenk from TYT. Same thing with I mentioned Kyle earlier. I mean, that's why I said every time somebody on here tries to do the "you're a nobody" or "you're insignificant" crap, I just roll my eyes because you'll be very hard pressed to find people who know a lot. Like in political circles, there are people who've been at this stuff for 10, 20, 30 years who have verifiably been seen by millions of people. And you go down the street and people still know who the hell they are. Hell, I met someone that was in their damn almost mid-20s, and they didn't know who Jesse Jackson was. It's like, are you serious? He's been around for how long? They got so mad at me for telling the truth. The truth is that Larry Elder is a one-trick pony whose only rise to prominence was being a radio host, and his position is pretty much defend every single thing Republicans do. And he, like all the other black conservatives that run for president, is going to not win a single state most likely and then drop out after that. And we've seen this exact pattern happen in 2000, in 2012, and 2016. Especially, and it's even worse for him because he, unlike the other three, he's running against an incumbent president. Excuse me, a former president, I should say. I picked up my ear right there. But he's running against someone who's already been president, who already has a built-in base support, who's polling 40, 30%. He doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. And like to be fair to him, most of the rest of the field doesn't. That's not just me trashing him. I'm just looking at the polling and previous voting patterns of that damn party, and making an analysis. Like, I don't know why people are so against reality, Like I said before, I like Williamson. I think that out of the three on the Democratic side, she would be the best, like to actually have for the general. Um, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that she's polling at neck and neck with Biden, or like I'm saying, it's just you can't sit here and try to pretend that the data is something that you want it to be when it's not. Yeah, they got mad at me for telling the truth. I said it and I'll say it again. Elder has no chance whatsoever of beating Trump. He is going to probably not win a single state, and then he is going to drop out, just like Alan Keyes, Herman Cain, Ben Carson. I mean, this is what they do. They get some black person that they talk up and make it seem like they're interested in voting for them for president, or in seeing them run for president. And they get like a couple of months of national exposure. People are talking about them. This could be your next leader. And when we actually get down to votes, they pretty much abandon them. So, I'm just going off a pattern that's very recognizable that even a blind man could see. But they'll get mad anyway. Get mad at the person who said Elder has no chance of winning, not the party that makes it to where he has no chance of winning. like I said, name recognition is it's one of the hardest aspects of running for office. It really is, because until you, in most cases, until you go out and just start campaigning and shaking everybody's damn hand, people have never heard of you. Like, who is that? Yeah, today's going to be much simpler, it seems, than the last few days have been, and I look forward to that very much. As hot as it was yesterday, I didn't even feel like going anywhere. I think I went for a walk early in the morning, maybe like 9, 10 o'clock. Not too early, but still, like, generally speaking, early. And then after that, I just went back and stayed here for the rest of the day. It was very warm. I felt like I was in a furnace. Like, I had the fan on. I was shocked by the weather. It's feeling pretty good today. I was actually pretty cold when I got up. But it happens a lot of times where, like, for some reason, there's always this one section where it's really cold in the morning. I don't know why that is, because it cools down, or I guess it gets warmer later on. But that's just a little thing I've observed, where every morning it's always really what do you call it, cold, and then it just gradually decreases as the day progresses. But yeah, people on this site, they get mad at you if you look at things from any semblance of a realistic standpoint. They get very upset. That's not true. It's like, it is true. If I can see polls that say this person's at 2% and the other one's at 40, I'm not wrong for thinking they're not going to win. Again, there's still, 7, 8, 9 months before any voting, so they could hypothetically decrease the gap. But like I said, dude, we've been watching this clown show play itself out for 2 months, and it's pretty much been the same thing since it started. He has this giant lead over everybody else, and the only one that even comes anywhere close to him hasn't even announced that he's running, and tends to fluctuate. Sometimes he's 20 points down, sometimes he's 16 points down. It's just one of those things where you won't see me, like, being shocked if it turns out the way it looks. That's all I'm gonna say. They really act like you're crazy if you just look at evidence. I always said before that, like, one of the biggest ways you know that some candidate isn't really that popular or well known is if I do a video about them and then, like, people who support them come on there and say something, because it's like all these much larger channels are talking about this. In most cases, are talking about this person, and you chose to come to me to have an issue with my official statement or response. But I went and looked on the YouTube's little, like, search engine. I didn't really see that many people talking about him running. Like, I saw the clip getting reposted, but out of any of the channels I watch, I didn't see a single one of them cover him announcing. So that's probably why that happened, because no one was talking about him announcing, because it was just another day in the hood. And that was when that person, like, saw that and decided to, get butthurt. How could you say that about him? That was all they said. I wouldn't have been upset, but when you insult me over your dear leader, I don't know. It's all just a big cult, man. Whatever. That's another reason why he's not going to win. He's running against Trump in the Trump party. That's a recipe for disaster. That's like an electoral suicide mission. Which is why I said that all of the actual smart people are just, like, staying out of this. Like, that's why Cruz isn't in there. That's why Rubio isn't in there. That's why Rand isn't in there. Those are all people who actually want to win, and they know they're not going to against the very popular ex, president. So they're much more intelligent than the ones that are actually in the field already. It is kind of funny thinking about the donors and them wanting somebody else, and then they just can't replace votes. Like they just because before that, like what's crazy about Trump is that um his supporters are so loyal and like devout that you really can't say anything about him that's going to rub on like you can get some independents who will say, okay, to hell with that. But I don't think you can get enough of his supporters, at least again in the primary, to be like, all right, I'm done with him. You'd have to really you could scrub off maybe like 2%, 5%, but nah, that whole group is already locked in. Like I said, this is what happens when you have people who reject evidence, where they basically just say, okay, well, I don't care what he said, I still like him anyway. Or I don't believe he said that, even though you have a video of him saying it. Yeah, people just don't believe in reality anymore. It's really sad. That's why I said I got to a point where I just really zoned out of having conversations with these people. Like if somebody and I said before, if I was someone who was like running for office, for example, I would speak to people on the basic premise of that's something you have to do if you want to run, talk to the constituents, whatever. But as far as like having one of these back and forths and debating, forget that. That's done. Because I truly believe most debates are a waste of time. I've yet to see one where if you didn't already agree with the person, your mind was made up by the other side. It's all just a waste to me. Like every time they throw those conventions and they have debates, I watch maybe like 2 minutes of it and I just turn it off because it's not even about people making substantive points. It's just this person has some supporters that are here who are going to say that they won. This other person has some supporters that are here who are going to say that they won. So it's just I don't get the point of it. I really don't. They can have their very pointless, nothing accomplished whatsoever debates all they want. Go right ahead. So I said people just sit here and they were like I've seen them. They're like, you should debate this person. You should go over here. I'm good. No, thank you. Another thing that ends up happening is I'll end up having what I think is a conversation with someone, and then it'll turn into a debate because they want to like push back against what I'm saying. And I don't know, maybe I'm. This is just the way I feel, whatever. But like people who I talk to on a one-on-one friendly basis, or at the very least, I'm speaking to, just to like I hate to use the phrase, but like shoot the breeze with, right? There's a general expectation that they can tell me pretty much anything about them, and I'm not going to like maybe I'll ask a question, but as far as you did this, you believe that, it's just whatever. Um, but I noticed that again, there were like two instances where with two different chicks, they tried to debate me over the romance stuff, and I was like, look, I'm not interested in arguing back and forth with you about this. Now, of course, I participated in this supposed conversation that is really just a debate in disguise. Um, because I'm not ashamed of my positions, and I think the arguments they make are so absurdly stupid that like I'd feel worse sitting there and just not saying anything. But it still is really obnoxious that they're so incensed over the love life of someone they don't even know that they'll argue with that person back and forth, like again over something that has nothing to do with them. the person didn't ask for your opinion on, or if they did, they certainly didn't ask to go back and forth with you about. It's just really weird, man. Just people. So I said they do things I just can't understand. Like the way they act and the little stuff that they type up, and just it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. No debates, whether they're online, whether they're in person. I have no desire to participate in them. Yeah, too bad the sun isn't out. I could get that glare. It's always either turn the light on and then have it and have the glare, but or to turn the light off and use the supposed sunlight outside, and then you still have the one side darkened thing going on. Remember the one guy who's like, "Get a better camera and better lighting." It's like, I think he said better audio. It's like, dude, I'm not buying all that just so someone who doesn't watch my video can pretend that they're going to start watching. That's what I thought was funny that there's like so many old YouTube clips from the the late 2000s, early 2010s that are shot in 240p or 360p, like something like that. And people have them, and like they have thousands and thousands and thousands of views. I'm like, you really want me to sit here and believe that if you just have this HD camera, everyone's gonna start suddenly get out of my face. That's why I said people online love selling BS. Like they love trying to get someone to believe all this hyped up crap. It's so sad. Like, man, if you want people to watch somebody's damn videos so much, you do it. You go out and promote them and post them on Facebook and Twitter and share them with your coworker or whatever. That's how you make someone get larger. Not sitting here and having them go on some financial suicide mission to buy all this different damn equipment that isn't going to make a difference anyway. I'm not even joking. I see maybe like 2 or 3 people a year who complain about camera quality or audio quality, like, because like I said, I'm not even large enough to where I would even care about that type of stuff. We know for a fact people will watch a video with bad quality if they agree with what's said in it, and we know for a fact that people will watch a video with bad audio if they can still understand what the person is saying, they'll still check it out. So I said it's all just a big joke. Hmm. I'm just laughing at this person. They didn't go to work on Thursday or Friday because every week they take like a day to 3 days off. So they had a 4 day vacation basically, right? Then I was like, okay, well, you know what? At least they're gonna go to work today. They're out of my hair for again the first day out of the last 5. And then it turns out that they're going to be leaving their job. They announced this in a text message. They're going to be leaving early at 12 something. It's like so after a 4 day vacation, effectively, you're gonna work today, but then only for like half of it. Because their usual time to get off is like 5 something. So that's really crazy to me, man. People just even the ones that supposedly are working are just kind of like whatever. They'll go to their job when they feel like it, and if they don't feel like it too damn bad, just it's crazy. I don't know. I just couldn't imagine missing all those damn days of work, and then pulling out my Hoover flag and be like, "Oh, please help me. I can't do this. Someone please help me." Like, well, hell, maybe if you would actually like, I don't understand the logic of not going to work every week. You miss 2 or 3 days, or at least one. Every week there's a day or multiple days missing from you attending. But then you want to sit here and talk about how, oh my god, all this stuff is so expensive. Like, God, what have people turned into? So I live in the twilight zone, man. The person without a job wants to go to work every day. The person with the job is completely fine with missing 2, 3, 4, 5 days every 2 weeks. It's crazy. I don't know what's wrong with people. They say they want to work and they say working's important, and then they every chance they get, they seem to take work off. And it's only this person. I don't know anyone else that does this where they just miss a day of work every single week. No, Don Lemon is out seeing as well. I saw it earlier. I just didn't know what to say. Yeah, and this is the day of the purge. That should be a dual video where I just make one about both of them being out. So my favorite thing this year was him saying that Haley wasn't in her prime. And it was like it's funny because you took this woman whose whole like distinction is, oh, I'm female and I'm running for this office. Like no actual policy that she's championed or supports that's even remarkable. And because you made this stupid comment about her comment about herself, you got all of these like different women who otherwise despise this lady to be like, yeah, she was in the right and you're wrong. It's just, oh man, he put his foot in his mouth with that comment. She's not in her prime. She's in her 50s. And the one coach was like, prime for what? I mean, comparatively speaking, she's in her prime because there's people who are in their 80s and 90s that are still running for stuff. So it's that's a really scary thought to think about. Like if she loses, and she will, um, this cycle, she could run again in 2028 and 2032 and 2036, 2040. Jesus. Some of these people you never do get rid of. Like they'll just keep trying and trying and trying. That's why the stuff with Biden was so surprising because I can't think of anyone else who had to run 3 times to actually win. Uh, Off the top of my head, Trump was twice, Obama was once, Bush was once, Clinton was once. The older Bush was twice because he ran in 80. Carter was once. Um, well, Ford didn't even he entered on different circumstances, but Nixon was twice. I would technically say Johnson was twice 'cause he ran in 1960 and he didn't win the primary, but then he became president anyway because of the assassination. So yeah, like just going through recent history, I can't think of anyone who ran more than twice that ended up for them to like finally win, which is why the stuff with Biden was such an outlier, and I still can't believe that it even happened. Uh, like that didn't make any sense. Yeah, doing a documentary is not easy, but it still is something that I want to do. Like, it takes a lot of research, writing. Um, I try to always, at least if it's for the more current ones, we're talking about like news articles, show the article, and if I'm directly saying something from another source, say according to this place or that place writes, because I think it's really important for people to be made aware of certain things and like know that this is not something I'm just saying in a video. You can actually find these articles on your own. They're all still online. I remember that one guy that put don't at YouTube me or whatever. Like when I was on Twitter and sent him the video I did on, I think it was the military budget. And I was thinking to myself, isn't it sad that you can have a video with annotations, facts about stuff, whatever, and you really have someone who's so dumb that they'll say, "Don't at me with this video because I don't because YouTube isn't a proper source," or it's like, but we're quoting from accredited institutions. I mean, if I do a video where I read a biography written by a historian, does what the historian said in that book now or wrote in that book suddenly now not have merit because I'm reading it in a video? Like it's just a really dumb um what's the way of putting it? Kind of like smokescreen camouflage to get out of actually addressing or listening to what's being said. That's why I said that like people are so finicky with the type of things they obsess over and care about, and they're really like transparent with the actual stuff that matters that they couldn't care less about. To where I don't even like speaking to them. Like I don't even think there's a purpose, especially like with the online ones, to even engaging them in a conversation. Like they're almost like locusts where you just see them typing stuff or what. I don't even say anything back because it's like, what's the point? Because me back in like 2017, 18, arguably the start of 19 as well, was like that was someone who really thought you could have conversations with people about this stuff, but you just can't. You just can't. And I so for that like it's even dumber for me to have thought that because um the video I do is my statement on whatever the given topic is. And if you're not able to get what I said in the video or to understand it, then there's nothing I can type that's going to make it any more clear. I believe that. Just people are so, what's the word for it? I don't want to say obnoxious, but they're just really annoying with some of the things they say and do and how they act. The things they hyper focus on, the things they couldn't care about. I remember I thought for a while that like maybe people don't say anything about this because they don't know about it. And I do think that's a part of it, but there are some people who know about this stuff and they just don't care. Because remember, we talked about how with Yemen, the thing that disturbed me so much was that you have the US participate, or at least you had rather, although we still are complicit because we saw weapons, but you had the US participating in what was the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, all these children being starved to death. And I had Americans who said they didn't care. Oh, that has nothing to do with me, whatever. But I guarantee you this, if this would never happen because they're not like this, but if Iran started blocking American people from bringing stuff to America, and you had North Korea dropping bombs and killing people in hospitals and grocery store, then you would see over here you would see them, Karen, if it happened to them. Like I'll never understand just the insanity of these people that if someone gets killed, Not even just like one person killed by a drone strike, which is already bad because we've established before that drone strikes 90% of the time kill the wrong person. But if a bunch of people get bombed and starved to death, including small children, they're fine with it so long as it's not happening in America. And that's all you need to know about the insanity and the evil and the really depraved way that a lot of Americans' minds work. But then again, I'm not too surprised because we've established this before, but like Americans really do not like each other. That's why every time you want them to get higher wages, you have other Americans try to fight. And we're not even just talking about like billionaires. We're like you have other Americans who tell you that these people don't deserve a raise. They don't deserve an extra one, two, $3. Uh, you and then like again at the same time as they're posturing, we've talked about the like that correlation before. Like the same people who will say they don't like illegal immigrants for taking American jobs and supposedly wanting Americans to work these jobs will be the same ones who will tell Americans that they can't get an extra couple of dollars every hour and are fine with that little garbage 7.25 minimum wage that hasn't been raised since I was in preschool. By the way, people are so damn crazy, man. And just going back to my point of Americans not caring about each other, look at all of these mass shootings. Think of all the times where some insane American, because most of the shootings are done by Americans. There are some that are done by people from other countries, but in general, they're done by Americans. Think of all the times where you had some innocent people, innocent Americans, they're just walking around, hanging out somewhere, whatever. And then within seconds or minutes, they're getting shot at by some crazy person. Told you, I always remember the Vegas shooting. You had these people out there just dancing, having a good time, listening to I think it was Jason Aldean or something like that. Aldrin, it might have been his last name. I'm forgetting his name, but I know his first name was Jason, I think. So they're all just dancing or having a good time. Just a little fun in Vegas, right? And then all of a sudden, some crazy American pulls out bump stock gun, whatever, giant rifle, and fires hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rounds into the crowd and kills 60 people. Deadliest mass shooting ever. I mean, we don't even have to mention any in particular. Look, you could talk whether you're talking about Columbine or I was gonna say Virginia Tech, but I think Cho Sung Hu was from another country, if I remember correctly. But whether it's Columbine, whether it's Sandy Hook, whether it's Parkland, Uvalde, look at all the times where some young American guys or guy like 17, 18, 19, for no damn reason, just went up into a school and fired upon sometimes their peers, or in some cases, small children. But remember, Americans love each other. So that's why I said when they don't care about Yemen, it's not because the Yemen people are evil or the Yemen government is this like depraved, awful institution, which I mean, there's criticisms of it that you can also apply to the American government. It's it is what it is. But they don't not care because the people are bad or deserve what's happening to them. They don't care because it's not happening to them. And in general, they don't care about the actual lives of their fellow human beings. That's why you go to any inner city, whether it's Chicago, New York, what do you see? People murdering each other and all these different crimes. Um, I mean, it's just established that there is something in a lot of people. I'm not going to say it's a majority because I don't have any polls to support this, and I believe and I know most people don't go around, doing violent stuff to each other, but there is a sickness in people, and it's not like a thing that just started. It's always been around, but there's a sickness in them where they either are doing something depraved or they're in support of doing depraved things. So like the person who says they don't care about their government bombing children, they might not be they're not as bad as the person that goes out and, for example, commits violence against kids, but they're not someone I would consider good either. They're in a more morally gray area where it's like they have enough sense to not do something as screwed up as what we're speaking of here, but they're still not going to be forceful about condemning it and saying there is something wrong with this and I'm not okay with that. Because like I said, I highly doubt that the what was that 69 million people that voted for Obama in 2008. I highly doubt that any of them voted for him so that he could assist Saudi Arabia in starving people to death and bombing hospitals. Like I don't think anyone jumped on board the yes we can train for that garbage. But that's what we ended up getting, and unfortunately, it's so sad that people just they don't care. They don't care. So I said it's all just posturing, man. Like it's really sad. Because like I said, this is the type of stuff that really destroys my faith in humanity. Like you have people who don't believe in God. I'm not one of them. I do think whatever. I'm not going to make this religious, but you have people who don't believe in God. I don't believe in people. Like just the way that they act and how they are towards each other and the types of things they say and do. It's all extremely demoralizing. It makes you not want to bother with them. Because you ask yourself, if they're okay with something like this, what else are they okay with? Like I can't believe it's controversial to say you don't want your government to bomb innocent people, like how did we get to that point? All this stuff over some damn oil, I tell you. It's really sad. Like I said, I'm not surprised. People have been letting me down for a long time. Just with their general demeanor and the way they act about this stuff. I said before that like what's so sad about people is if they get together, they can do a lot of things that are really good and are actually strong because there is strength in numbers. But unfortunately, there's just too much division to ever unite around very basic common causes. Like you could easily pressure a politician to be like, all right, look, if you vote for this again, we're done with you. And it's not just me, it's not just this other person down the street. It's like 100,000 of us, right? They all signed some pledge. We're done with you if you vote this way on this particular thing. I guarantee they would stop doing that. Because, like I said, the main concern of most politicians, especially the ones in America, is to keep their job. They want to stay in office and have as many terms and re-elections and all that crap for as long as they can. They want to make sure. So that's why I said people just they really do waste their powers. They don't actually, they don't make an attempt to really do the types of things that need to be done to cause change. I don't know what's wrong with this thing, man. It's so weird. Oh, streaming, you're real tough sometimes, I tell you. Well, look, I don't know what's going on with the subs today. I'm very. I'm not gonna say I'm shocked because this has happened before. Um, that seems to be like a running theme where it's on Monday where people are less likely to appear, even if you like schedule it and tell them what time. So I'm not too surprised that this happens at this point. Whatever.